So the drive for us from North Denver takes us about 2.5 to 3 hours to get down into Colorado Springs. This is actually pretty decent traffic for a weekend. I think a lot of it has to do with we have a pretty large fire going on just west of town, which has the main road out to where all the camping and fishing spots are. You just can't get to right now, so traffic was better than ideal, and it still took us about 3 hours to get there. It's a good view, and this was one of the few days where everything wasn't cloudy from the smoke. So here we are pulling up to the front gate of Pikes Peak. They are kind of limiting how many cars get on the mountain at a time, and it is oddly enough not a national park, so the entrance fee is kind of steep, being at $30. And this is the actual drive going up to the summit. It's mostly just a winding road that slowly gains an elevation. I think you start at around 8,200 feet, and there's a sign every mile all the way to the top, which is I think 18 miles. And every mile you're gaining about 500 feet of elevation. And another good tip for driving up this steep of a hill not only puts a big strain on your engine, but the lack of oxygen just going through your car sort of creates a lot of problem for people. So it's recommended to not use an air conditioner, which this time of year in Colorado we're looking at I think about 96 degrees this day when we drove up. So not having an air conditioner to drive up sort of slowly with 15-20 mile speed limit the whole way there is rather annoying. Luckily, as we get higher and higher in elevation, it's easy enough to roll down the windows as the temperature does start to drop. One of the things I think people don't really know about Pikes Peak is it snows year-round, so it is easy for a storm to roll in, which does happen later on in the day. But the temperature will drop to the 40s very rapidly, and then below freezing shortly after that, and it'll snow in 100-degree weather down in the city, and it's snowing at the top. So while it does sort of have a downside to not being able to use your air conditioner just to not strain your vehicle, if you're concerned about that, once you get higher up you just crack the windows and it's almost perfect temperature driving up. Also turns out there is a very large amount of construction going on the summit. Obviously them using the downtime from the winter and the rainy season to sort of fix and improve what's at the summit. So there's two, we'll call them shuttle depots at mile marker 13 and 16, where you can park your vehicle in a man-made parking lot they have set up and take a shuttle the rest of the way up, because parking at the summit is, I think when we got there, only had maybe room for 10 cars total, which just based on what I saw, I would say there's between 400 and 500 cars any given point in time driving up and down the road. So obviously without that room for parking, they had to create something else and another way for people to get up there. So you'll see coming up here, we'll approach one of the checkpoints, which on the way down serves as a brake check, because going down the mountain your brakes can overheat pretty dramatically, and the last thing you want is to have all your brake fluid boil away and then you not really having any braking going down, in some instances, 45-degree inclines. They try to recommend just using lower gears when going down and even going up, which can help. Depending on your car, though, that's not really something that works out. I mean, my car handles altitude very well, having, I think, been and broken in here in Colorado, but going down, even in my low gear, I almost redline in RPM just because it just won't hold the speed, and with that type of incline it accelerates too fast, so you don't really have a choice to brake. So if you are planning to drive the mountain, double, triple check your brakes, oil, all that, because there is no way off of this once you're on it. I think I read a few years ago somebody broke down about halfway up the peak here and had to have AAA come and pick them up. And even because of the mileage and location, if they wouldn't have had AAA, the tow truck would have charged them roughly $500 to tow them off the mountain through the city and then to, you know, a garage that could actually work on their vehicles. So check your car. So this is mile marker 13. This is the first location that has a shuttle, but it seemed like they were full at this time, so a lot of people couldn't park here, and then they made us go on. Coming back down, this is also where you will stop to have your brakes checked. The Department of Transportation makes it a mandatory brake check to 300 degrees, which they have a thermometer where they will go around and scan your front brakes to make sure that they're hot, or they're not hot. If they're over 300 degrees, while they legally can't, you know, detain you or prevent you from driving, they do recommend that you pull over and let your brakes cool down, because after that mile marker, you still have 13 more miles to get down off the summit. And also, as you can see, at this altitude now, the trees are almost non-existent. I think at this marker we were around 12,500 feet. And you can clearly see the tree line as it disappears. The higher up in altitude you go, it's actually kind of interesting to watch it happen. And the higher up we start to get, the less straight the roads become. We start getting into, you know, 180 degree turns and very, very steep inclines as we are running out of road, sort of reaching the summit. And there are no guardrails or handrails or anything to prevent you from driving off the side, except on these very sharp turns. So, you know, you can see this van in front of us that was sort of not staying in the yellow lines. That's why we think he was afraid of the edge. Here we are coming up to mile marker 16, where we will actually park and take the shuttle up to the peak. So then we decided to go inside and do a sort of quick tour of the gift shop at the summit. They were limiting people, obviously, how many people could go in at a time, and there is a restaurant over to the right side as you enter that has hot dogs and pretzels and pizza and little snack foods, water. Obviously there's bathrooms here as well. It's a fairly packed and small gift shop, but they do have almost anything you could possibly imagine as a souvenir or a gift from Pikes Peak. Another fun fact about the mountain, there are a very large number of Bigfoot sightings that happen in the Manitou Springs / Pikes Peak area, and they do a very good job of promoting Bigfoot with various stickers, decals, magnets, plushies, shirts, etc., as well as sort of gag signs that you'll run into as you're driving up and down the peak, sort of pointing out, oh, Bigfoot was sighted here, or beware Bigfoot crossing. And some of the little rest areas that you can pull over into actually have what I would call fake statues of Bigfoot in hidden poses, to where you can take a group photo in front of a sign, and there's this, you know, fake Bigfoot standing behind that you can then tell everybody, oh my god, I didn't see him when he was there, but he's there. It's actually kind of neat in that sense. Yeah, keychains, postcards, magnets, 50 different kinds of shirts, and there's also some wildlife conservation fund donation points, as well as other areas that you can contribute to the peak. When we were leaving to get back on the shuttle, this little ground squirrel was just hanging out in the line. People were feeding him popcorn, which is a very bad idea. Do not feed the wildlife. This is some of the views coming back down. So from that mile marker, it was about 45 minutes down the peak, and then a 2.5-hour drive to Canyon City, where the Santa Fe line has the Royal Gorge Route Railroad. You can get breakfast, lunch, dinner, and obviously there's a variety of classes you can sit in, being coach, dome, first class, club, etc. And they take you an hour and a half down the track along the river. And we ended up getting the dinner, which was a 3-course dinner at night. It leaves about 6 p.m. and actually really, really good food. We were actually kind of surprised. You start with this salad that has a special champagne vinaigrette and like candied walnuts and some cheese. And I'm not a big person on restaurant salads because they tend to be very out of the bag to me, but that was actually very good. We would have asked for more if we didn't know what was coming. The train tends to run year-round. It's actually pretty nice view and temperature-wise. This is the prime rib dinner that we got, cooked perfectly. I think it was like garlic crusted, and they take like 24 hours preparing and cooking it, and easily one of the best prime ribs I think I've ever had, and I've had a lot, so it was great. It kind of worked out perfectly. About the time we were done with the entree, we were able to go outside, and that was about the time the train had turned around to head back, so didn't really miss a whole lot. This also wasn't our first time taking the train. It's nice going back, sort of seeing these historic buildings. Everything is there from the old mining, and I think there was a gold, silver, and coal mines that all ran around this river here that goes down through the Royal Gorge. And you pass by sort of the old piping and buildings, and there's even like old rail car line that they had to build into the side of the mountain that they either used for transporting the flat cars or maybe themselves down through the canyon. The train itself has, I think, 7 outside observation decks where you can just walk outside and open air car, sort of watch yourself as you go through. And then obviously too, since it is going through the Royal Gorge, which here is an attraction up on the surface level, there's a giant bridge that goes across that you can walk on, and there's like zip lines and special aerial games and attractions up there. And the train actually goes through that part of the canyon, and we'll stop underneath and you'll be able to see the bridge. But I think the depth down is roughly 2,700 feet, I think is what they said. They kind of give you a little tour when you're outside anyways, and it'll talk with you through some of the historical facts about it. Every now and then too, you'll see whitewater rafting teams going down this river. Upstream about another mile and a half is a yurt campsite where you can rent yurts, and they also do rafting out of that. And there's one of the rail car lines that is, 200 years old that they used to use for transporting gold and miners up and down the canyon. Very fast moving water. When we were leaving, coming out, we had a small thunderstorm, so we weren't actually able to go outside due to lightning. But as the water came down, obviously from the hills, this river got ripping. It's usually not this strong. I think it's only a class 1 rapid at this part, and then eventually breaks out into like 2s and ends at a 3. But with so much rain that came through there that ended in the canyon, this pretty much created everything, I think, into a class 2 rapid. There's the Royal Gorge Bridge. Helicopter flying by giving somebody a tour, but you can actually go up there and walk across that bridge for, I think the entry is like $54 into the Royal Gorge Park, and then the zip line's like $35, and some observation tours and stuff. The helicopter tour is about $300 a person, so it's your standard Colorado amusement park up on the top. There's like a gondola, slow people mover type zipline thing you can take. I think it takes like 3 minutes to go across the canyon, but it's geared more for kids and family.